Okay, so you get a last minute request to fill in for another band. How do you prepare? Let's find out. What's going on, everybody? My name is Adam. Hope you're doing well. A couple of days ago, I got a preliminary call from a friend of mine who had a gig tomorrow night and needed somebody to potentially fill in for him on vocals and guitar. The story goes he had some sort of issue with his throat and he was waiting on a doctor to give him the heads up on whether or not he was going to be able to do this or not. Well, sure enough, yesterday I got the call that I was up, so it was time to start prepping for this gig. Now, for some people, being the sub for a band like this is kind of nerve-wracking, but there's also a few of you who are really interested in the idea of being kind of like the first call guy in the event that something goes down. And this is one of those situations. So let me talk about what I am doing in order to prepare for this gig. Before we get into that though, if this kind of content is stuff that you're interested in, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. One thing to note about being first call, that is not a gig that you can just waltz into. It is a position that you earn. If that's the lane you want to be in, there are a few things that you need to make sure that you are able to deliver on. In my case, it was a matter of being technically proficient enough to cover the material and also having experience with the material itself. So if there are particular bands in your area that you would like to be in that world for, you need to make sure that you are well versed on their material and that you are able to onboard those things quickly and deliver them in a timely fashion. Sort of kind of knowing the song is not going to cut it for this kind of work. Also, be sure that you have the right gear for the job. A lot of times you're getting these things last minute, and so some quick communication, you need to make sure that you've got the thing that they need and that it's going to fit and jive with what they've got going on already. So after the initial contact was made, me and the guy that I'm filling in for went back and forth about song selection, and he basically gave me the band's entire song list. And from reviewing that list, I kind of realized that I was going to be okay regardless of what they chose, but still I did make a couple of notes of songs that I either haven't done in a while or have never done live before. Once we kind of got that out of the way, we were able to kind of create a set list together, and it turns out that my friend who's not going to be able to sing is going to end up still playing guitar, so I won't have to do a bunch of heavy lifting on that front. From there, it's just a matter of figuring out how they do those songs the way that they do. This can look like a lot of different things. For some people, you may get like live recordings of their show, and for others, you may just get a couple of messages that kind of explain what is different or unique about the way that they perform stuff. In my case, on my run this morning, I was getting text messages in my AirPods that was kind of telling me what keys things were in and how songs kind of transition and flowed from one to the other. It was a perfect scenario to get prepped for this one. Now that the songs and the arrangements were out of the way, it's just a matter of putting together some notes on an iPad. This is one of those scenarios where I don't feel bad about using a crutch or a crib sheet, because fact of the matter is I just didn't have a ton of time to prep. So I'm going to use either OnSong or Ultimate Guitar. I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to choose just yet. Each one has their kind of upsides and downsides, but if I end up playing guitar on anything, Ultimate Guitar will probably get that spot. Some other things I'm going to need to do to prep are to transpose some songs so that I can figure out how the melody feels down a different set of intervals. So I'm going to be using an app called Capo on my Mac to do that kind of thing. One of the songs is You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette, and I've got to figure out how it feels singing it down a whole step from the recording. And then from there, it's just a matter of figuring out what gear to bring, what gear not to bring, and how I can fit into this dynamic without stepping on anybody's toes and hopefully adding a little bit of excitement or uniqueness to the show. This particular gig kicks off tomorrow night, so I'm not going to be able to give you the full rundown this week, but I will be sure to talk about it either on the podcast for this week's episode or next week after it's wrapped. In other news, a bunch of new gear has rolled in. I did pick up one of the iConnectivity Play Audio 12s, which is an interface with 12 outputs, which we're going to use to integrate into our Ableton Live rig. My 80s band members only just got a huge retractable sign for a show that we've got coming up on June 10th. And this Nick Johnston signature Schecter came in the mail yesterday, but it needs a little bit of work before I'm ready to do a review on it. Be on the lookout for that. There's also some really cool conversations with some other gear companies, so there's going to be a lot of new gear being talked about on this channel. So if that's something that you're into, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. There's gonna be a lot of fun stuff coming up. That's gonna do it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. Sorry for the shorter video this week, but the fact of the matter is that if your content is around playing music has to happen in order for the content to get made. So unfortunately, this one got cut short, but don't worry, there'll be lots of exciting stuff coming down the pipe in the near future. Also, if you're just jonesing for more info like this, you should check out the Coverbandconfidential podcast. We are on all major podcast platforms. There's over 200 episodes of all kinds of information about how you can make good money playing music. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time.